solars. Let me get to that.
Recording is on.
Let me see how far I went. Okay. Okay, on age 58, we're looking at the Pluto here, which is the Five of Hearts, right? And the significance, because we're going into a Five of Hearts year. So what we look at to see what the Five of Hearts year is gonna look for us is we would look back and find significant things that happened during the Five of Hearts, right? So at 58 in the United States spread was 2 years ago, right? Because we're no, not 2 years ago. We're at 64, so that was 6 years ago, right? So what major things were happening, 6 years ago in the United States? And we can pretty much say that there's been major significant things happening, United States all the time, right? But we can say that there were major significant things happening in the United States. I don't know if you guys remember anything off of the top of your heads, but just by looking at this spread, we can see the Jack of Diamonds was Jupiter. So that's saying that there was some things going on that year, right? We could definitely see with this Jack of Diamonds, with the Jack of Diamonds being in Jupiter, that lets me know that over the last 6 years, the United States was on a trajectory to get here, because it takes 6 years to get to Jupiter. So that would be from the time that Obama became president.
Yeah.
So that's telling you that the United States, no matter what we were seeing and what we were hearing, there was a lot of stuff going on to get to this place. There was a lot of stuff in the background going on, right?
Quick question. Was that the year that Obama balanced the budget? Because remember, he inherited a mess and then he got it back to where we were in the black. Could that have been the year since it's Jupiter?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Maybe he was headed in that direction.
That would be the 6th year of his presidency. So, yeah, I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
When I saw that, that's what I was wondering. Okay.
Yeah,
thanks.
it could be. It's a possibility, but for sure, it tells us that there were major things going on in the United States, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because
Yes.
that meant that the Jack of Diamonds was at the Jack of Diamonds at 53 was in Pluto. So at 53 would have been that. So we're looking at this is 2 years, 6 years. So at 53, that would have been 1, 2, 3, 4. So this would have been in Bush's presidency, right? So, and Bush's presidency is when the Jack of Diamonds started. So, what people are saying is not true if you look at where the Jack of Diamonds was sitting at. So the Jack of Diamonds got hit in Bush's presidency. So since the Jack of Diamonds got hit in Bush's presidency, things were beginning to fall whichever way they were going to fall, and didn't have anything to do with him. That the Jack of Diamonds was in Pluto. So it meant that the United States structures and all of that kind of stuff was going to be dismantled. Just happened to be in his presidency, right? Because anything that's in Pluto, the structures are going to be however they are, is how they're going to be, how you're going to feel it. And we certainly know that just for where we are today, the structure of the United States has been changing. So when we look at the Jack of Diamonds in Jupiter here, we would look back 6 years to see that at plate 53, which was, like I said, that looks like that's 2 years before Y'all can do the math because I can't do the math right off of that. So from 58 back to 53, that's 5 years, right? Isn't that 5 years?
Yes.
Yes.
So 5 years would still be, that would be Bush's presidency, right? So in Bush's presidency is when the United States started its decline, right? And if we look at, we can go back as, we can follow this trail back and it will show us um, everything when we follow that Pluto. So the United States at this point is now um, regaining. It did the work, and it's in Jupiter, Jupiter, so it's regaining. But once you get in Jupiter, Jupiter is when the work starts. You know what I mean? It's like you won the lotto. Okay, now what? That's what Jupiter, Jupiter represents. It's like, okay, you won the lotto, but now you got to maintain it. So the United States at 58, which was the Obama's presidency, was in Jupiter, Jupiter, right? So that was saying, that's why people were saying that, during his presidency is when the United States recovered, right? Does that make sense?
53 is 58 plate 53 is when Obama took office. Because it was 11 years ago. He was first inaugurated in 2009.
Okay, so he was at 53 is when
At
he took,
53 is when he took office.
right.
Obama.
Right. So when 53, when he took office, that's still the decline of the United States.
Right.
So it didn't have anything to do with the prior presidency, is what I'm saying. If we look at the cards, it had to do with the Jack of Diamonds was in Pluto, right? So since the Jack of Diamonds was in Pluto, it was telling you that there's structural change is getting ready to happen. So at 58, we see the Jack of Diamonds is sitting in Jupiter, Jupiter. So it's saying that, okay, you've done the work. Yes, maybe or not, because it doesn't mean that you did the work, right? It just means that Pluto forced some stuff upon you, right? But it doesn't mean you did the work. The work after 58, not at 58, but 58 tells whether or not you did the work, right? 59, I mean. So when we look at this plate, we see that the Five of Hearts, and this is the Five of Hearts sitting in Pluto. So this was a time when the Five of Hearts started feeling the same thing that any card that sits in Pluto, and it starts hitting you in wherever structures. Pluto is about structures. It's about it's generational. It's that planet that takes 248 years. It's moves slow. So when Pluto hits you, it dismantles things that don't work for the collective. That's Pluto, period. It's like you say, okay, I have a hospital, and this hospital was we built this hospital because we wanted to take care of people with Alzheimer's, right? So as a hospital goes through, building its patients and this and everything that's happening, it's not doing that. And people are starting to see, well, no, we're not doing the things that, we formed this hospital for. And then Pluto comes along and says, yeah, you're not doing these things. So we have to change, we have to do some things. And you say, well, I'm not so sure if I want to do these things. Pluto said, well, I didn't ask you. You're going to change these things. These structures are not working out for the collective, because Pluto is about the collective. Pluto is humanitarian by nature. Everybody has to be getting what is promised, or else when Pluto comes along, it just dismantles it, period. And then you gotta do what you gotta do to get back to where you want to get to. And it usually doesn't feel too good with Pluto. A lot of people don't even, their Pluto card is something that I find people avoid. It's like the Saturn cards. Those are the things that, don't make me feel so good. So I don't even pay them any attention. But nonetheless, they dragging you along. You're just going over hot coals and rocks and glass, but you're still coming. You know what I mean? Where you could come without all of that. And that's the key to knowing what your cards are telling you to do. Now, because this is a five of hearts, and I myself believe that the five of hearts, I believe that the five of hearts somewhere in the far distant past got away from what they were supposed to be doing. I believe that when we talk about um, aliens and stuff like that. I, I understand what people are saying, but I believe that we're all here and we all come from whatever aliens, whatever it is. That there's something about each and every one of us that ties into these theories, because why would we be talking about it? We have to be talking about it because it's a knowing that we have that something is going to happen and somebody's going to be coming back. So to me, it makes sense. But I think the five of hearts represents that, because the five of hearts is pretty much the only card that I know of that when things are not going the way it feels that it's going, the anxiety makes the five of hearts go within. That's why it's called a card of ghosting. And that's real simplistic to me. But it means that I know there are answers, and I know the only place I can find the answers is in the safety inside of me. That's what the five of hearts means to me, right? And I believe that they are definitely higher octaves, or higher beings, and you can look at it when you look at over our history with how this country and the world has dealt with people with special needs and disabilities and stuff, and you see how they've been treated. They haven't been treated well at all. So somewhere in the karma line, something happened to me that made them be ostracized and just abandoned. Because really, mental illness has been abandoned in this country. You know what I mean? And I don't can't even say it was abandoned. I don't think it's ever been anything from
On the radar.
when they opened up the jails in Europe and sent over a whole lot of their crazy people over here, because they say, y'all want to go? Okay. So, they just, that was a big, like you just dump people here that had things that they weren't getting help for there, and they came over here. And what did they get when they got here? Freedom. You know what I mean? So in and of itself, that's a good thing. But when you think about the five of hearts, you think of freedom. Because if you know any child that has special needs, that's all they want, is to be free. They don't want to be told what to do. And that's kind of hard when you have a child, because your radar is to protect them, right? You want to protect them from being hurt. You want to, on the high side, you're that parent, and you want to protect them from the world. I know I've had children that had so-called special needs, and I was their protector. I was like, no, I was always the no person. And maybe sometimes I should have said yes, but I didn't. I thought I was protecting them from being labeled. You know what I mean? So I had to do more work with them. I had to, excuse me, I had to do more with with a couple of my kids, because of the so-called, because they couldn't fit in school. They were not by any stretch of the imagination unequipped. They just didn't want to be in school, and they didn't want to be told what to do. They didn't want to sit down. They didn't know how. It's like they had all of this energy that that being confined didn't work for them. Right. So when you think about that, when I think about that, I think about how things have changed in the last, and I'm going to say in the last 6 years, because I know that this is the time when I started discovering myself. And the five of hearts is a challenging karma card to my Yvonne's card. So to the five of clubs. And this is the time I started discovering myself. I really started noticing my anxiety. I started noticing, the way I felt. I have had anxiety all my life. I can't remember a time when I didn't have anxiety. Thank God for my family. I had a big family, so I'm buffered inside of the family. But I've always had anxiety, and I mean, sometimes crippling anxiety. I wouldn't do certain things. I just wouldn't do them. It's like people would say, "She's not coming," and I wasn't. I would say I was, but I wasn't coming. I wasn't, I just was not, I wasn't put here for the drama and all of the stuff that goes on, out in the world. I wasn't good with it. I wasn't good with certain things. So I just wouldn't participate. So looking at later on in life and at age 52, 58, I can see my change, and I can see me looking at anxiety differently. And, I used to have long conversations with Tavana because she's the only person that me and her were the only two that did Cardology. And I would have long conversations with her about anxiety, and I went through a phase. I'm promising you, if you saw me, oh my gosh, if my anxiety did not cripple me at age 58, my name is not Nina. I was crippled. Do you hear? I was crippled. They literally had to come and pick me up. I couldn't drive. I couldn't focus. It's like I would be someplace and I would just break out and I would be like, I would just be frozen sitting in a parking lot somewhere. And my family literally had to come get me. Literally. I had to take off. I took off several months from work because I couldn't deal. I was like, I don't know what's happening, but something is happening. And this is literally at age 58. And you think that you're just losing it. You know what I mean? You're like, yeah, you're all kind of losing it. And just to have cardiology later, I can look back on it and know what it was. But when I was in the throes of it, I didn't know what it was. I cannot tell you how many times I ended up in the emergency room. I had panic attacks that were, they were just, and this was Pluto hitting that five of hearts, and it was tearing down my beliefs that I couldn't do certain things. You know what I mean? It's like there's certain things I just couldn't do. That was my belief system. Not true. I could do whatever I want to do. You just don't do it. But in my mind, I couldn't do it. I literally could almost black out from anxiety. Literally. I sat on the couch for months. Months. I was good. I didn't have to move. I didn't have to do anything but just, because I didn't know what was going on. And it's good that I had common sense to know to sit my ass down and not be out there in the streets, causing more stress to myself. It was rough. It was really a rough time. But you learn um through life, and because I was 58, did this too shall pass or you die, one of the two. You know what I mean? It is what it is. It's not like, you got a lot of options.
I had to laugh. You said this too shall pass, or you just gonna die.
Yeah, that's it. It's gonna take you out or you'll be okay. That's how I had to, literally look at it.
And since
So
I'm 58, you're preaching to the choir. And when you said that, that's why that hit me in such a special way. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just had to share.
right, I get it. I get it because you're 58. But it would be, it would, you lucky you don't have a five of hearts or five, you don't have a five of hearts um in your life path. So you may have five of hearts energy. So it'll hit you differently. Five of hearts was my challenging card in Uranus. So everything that happened talked about healing trauma. I was traumatized. And I was traumatized as a child. I was. I grew up in the 60s and the 70s. I was traumatized. There's no way around it. I was. I literally, everything. I was such a sensitive child. I was sensitive to everything. everything I was sensitive to. I was that person that I felt everything. And it wasn't, and that's long before I knew why I was so sensitive and why things happened to me where the rest of my siblings could enjoy themselves and do things I couldn't. I couldn't. I was just like, I can't do that, in my head, and not that they cared because it's like, we got enough, we got to watch anyway. So, she doesn't want to go, it's fine. I was the kid that we took lots of trips. I threw up every time in the car. You didn't open up the window. I could not stay in a car with a window. I don't care. It could be 2 degrees outside. They had to open the window because they said Nina's gonna throw up. That's how, because I could not be in a car closed off. And that's a lot. You know what I mean? People would try to figure it out. Well, what's really going on with her? Nobody knew. Probably, I'm sure they talked. I'm sure that I was the topic of the conversation. They probably didn't want me to hear. Now that I think about it, when my parents got together, they was probably like, I don't know what we're gonna do with her, right? It was just, and I was that person that the anxiety was so bad with knowing we were going on a road on a trip somewhere. I didn't enjoy myself. So I know that the Five of Hearts had a lot to do with that now. But growing up, who knew that? You know. So when I look at how it happened from 58, and we fast forward to the Five of Hearts going through all of the different different the evolution that it went through. The next time we looked, it was in Mars Uranus, you know. So I started going to a doctor. Yeah, I did. I had to take action. I'm an 8 of diamonds sitting here. Look at that. There's a 9 of spade here, something, and it's a 6 of spade. I was fated to be better, but I had to take action. I had to do something. I was like, I got to get up off of this couch because I can't do this. I got to work. I got to do what I got to do. So I had to take action, and I started seeing a doctor. And that the doctor helped me with so many things. Changing my diet. I had stomach issues like the Five of Hearts, like autistic children have. I have stomach issues my whole life. I didn't stop having stomach issues until when I started going to the doctor. That's 59 years old. Come on now, seriously? I had stomach issues. I mean, I had so much anxiety that I literally could not hold my bowels at one time. That's a lot. I'm like, now I was really freaking out then. I was like, oh, this is not going to work. You know what I mean? I had to take an extra set of clothes with me just in case. So the doctor she ran all the tests. My stomach was a whole yeast. She said, my God, she said, I can't remember the numbers, how when your stomach is overran with yeast, but I had to go on a regimen she said, she's a homeopathic. She said, but the only way we could get rid of this yeast is through antibiotics. So I had to go on a regimen of antibiotics. And I couldn't eat. I can't eat wheat. I can't eat sugar. But I can't eat pretty much what most people eat. But I can't eat it because I have a high acid stomach. Blood type O. We have lots of acid, so we can't eat sugar and wheat and all that kind of stuff because it turns into a petri dish. So that happened with the Five of Hearts for me. And going forward, the Five of Hearts is now in Saturn. It's in Uranus. And the Eight of Diamonds is challenging karma card. So I pretty much had to do the work that I did. Because the Eight of Diamonds was challenging the Five of Hearts. You got to do this. You're going to be okay. You're going to be okay. I remember sitting there just crying. I'm like, what the hell happened in my life? Where did it go? Who stole my life? Who stole me? And not like not like, come on now. They did it was gonna be better, but who knew that? Who knew that my life would be better? But then here we got the five of hearts in the sun. And I'm like, oh my God, feeling like, okay, I could do this. Everything was, you know, pretty much right size in that ship, for me, right? So when I look at when the five of hearts got in Uranus, is when I started paying attention. I'm like, five of hearts is in Uranus. What's this talking about? And that's when I start looking back at the five of hearts. You know what I mean? And this is at 62, which was last year. Prior to that, I didn't know all of this stuff. But then I'm looking at the five of hearts in Uranus, and I'm starting to see changes. And you're starting to see changes with special needs, and I'm starting to see changes with how that whole system and stuff. And then the school system shuts down. And I get a light bulb moment. And that's when I start looking at the five of hearts. Really looking at the five of hearts to see that the structures that are changing are because of the five of hearts. And that's when I come to the conclusion that everything is changing. And then we get to the ascension. And then we get to all of the things that we talk about. And I'm like, all of these things make sense to me. That the world is definitely going to be better. It's going to be better because of the healing. Now, mine was an internal healing, but the healing that I'm sure it happened in people's homes who had special needs children, I'm sure they saw changes. Now, depending on what kind of relationships you have with people and stuff like that, is how you helped. Or did it get worse for these children because nobody knew what to do with them? I was an adult, so I knew I had to do something for myself. Then I have my grandkids that my grandson he has stomach problems, and he couldn't eat, and he lost all this weight, and he looked like a skeleton. They diagnosed him with, I forget that stomach thing they diagnosed him with. And I worked with him to get him back in healthy, and now he's healthy and stuff like that. I've had several of my grandkids go through this because the five of hearts, and it's just interesting to see that. So I'm looking at it for next year, because right now, well, five of hearts right now is where's the five of hearts? It's in it next year. This is this year, right? No, that's this year for me. So last year for the United States, the five of hearts was Jupiter, Jupiter. So when a card finishes, when it went through all of the placements that I showed, and it gets to Jupiter, Jupiter, now it's in the center of the universe. It's like, now what? Now what do you do? All eyes are on you. People think of it as money, but no, absolutely not. Because if you haven't done the work, there's no payoff. The payoff is the work that you've done. So it's sitting in Jupiter, Jupiter last year. What was it telling us? What was the five of hearts saying? Was it saying job well done? It had to be, because the school system is still shut down. So it's saying pretty much y'all haven't done what you need to do. So it's saying, okay, we're still looking at some stuff. And this is where I came to the understanding that once you get to Jupiter, Jupiter, this is where the real work starts. People think, okay, it stopped. That's no, absolutely not. Now you got to do the work. You got here, you're in the center of the universe, you're in the coveted place that people want to get to. Now what? And this is how I discovered that the life path to get to where we're doing what we are supposed to be doing, because then we're back up. We've descended. The five of hearts descended. Now sitting in Mercury, Mars. You know, it's telling us something after it left Jupiter, Jupiter, and it's sitting in Mercury, Mars next year. What do you think that means? Because next year is a five of hearts year. That's very important for us. So, what do you guys think that means for us?
I was I like to say this was great. I think personally, well, I think my opinion is more so from what I've been kind of tuned into as far as awareness of children and whatnot. I
Mm-hmm.
think children are going to be moving, whether
Mm-hmm.
it's, foster care or, having, different immigration issues and whatnot. But I think that
Oh,
we're
you're
going
right,
to,
because they did lock these children up during that time, didn't they?
exactly, exactly. So
Wow.
that's what I was thinking of too. And like you said, job was not well done. So I definitely, I feel like with this sitting at Mercury, Mars,
Mm-hmm.
that it's definitely going to be some travel with the children, maybe some type of fighting. But where we were talking about with, like you just said, and then Wayfair was an issue, that type of sex trafficking and whatnot. So that's pretty much what I sex trafficking, Mars, Mercury. Wow, that's going to be the highlight.
Wow. You are so, because Mercury is children.
Wow.
Yeah, Mercury represents the first 13 years of our life. And it's displacing the Queen of Clubs, which is definitely about children and protecting children. Whenever you see the Queen of Clubs shows up, it's pretty much around children and healing and stuff like that. So yeah, that's definitely you. Yeah, definitely. Hmm. That's definitely a good one for you to say. It looks like that thing with sex trafficking is going to blow up. Look at the three of horses, the challenging karma card. That's the
Right. Mm.
So I have a question. Why is all of this in the know? We know these things are happening, but they're just not, they're not coming out in the media. And, I guess it's timing because I think, like we talk about the sex trafficking and, all the things that are going on behind the scenes with everything. And yeah, I don't know, maybe that's what needs to come out in the Five of Hearts year. Is that what we're thinking?
hmm Yeah,
Wow.
well, the media has, and that's one thing that we'll be stepping away from, because the media is the one that's not reporting it, and they report it. What's the difference? What's the difference? It's one and the same. It's like you have a quarter and you have two different sides. It's the same quarter. So whether the media gets involved or not, this is the Five of Hearts is sitting in Pluto. Pluto is about destroying structures, and it's about wanting things to be better for everyone. The media has nothing to do with that. This is on us now. Everything is going to be on us. Looking for people to come and save the day is over. This is about us. This is about the collective. Pluto is a collective planet. It's talking about everybody. There's nobody to look to do it. We all have to be able to do it. We all have to want to do it. And that's it. With being a social worker, I know that there's a part of society that doesn't even want to think about these things. There's a part of that people go to work every day, they go home, this never touches them. Even if it does touch them, they don't want to know about it. And that's going to end, because it's about community now. So that's what Pluto is saying. I'm tearing down the structure. So there's not going to be a structure to report. It's not, because you're looking at, if you're saying that this stuff is happening, you don't think the people in the media are involved too? Why would they tell on themselves? They wouldn't make sense. So it's people that are everyday people, teachers and social workers and policemen and firemen and stuff like that, that in the community every day to see these things, that talk about it, that as community people, community organizations, and building a groundswell of stuff that is what's going to help and change for us going forward. Definitely not the government, and definitely not the media. And that's why I'm saying, when we look at the Five of Hearts being set apart from society and from, and being folded back into it. What is it being folded back into? I don't think it went through all that it went through to come back and to have expectations from the people who ostracized it. So I'm looking at people are saying how things are going to look. There's not going to be that kind of structure anymore for me. That's not, I don't even think about them when I think about moving forward. I don't see them as a part of anything because they're part of the problem. you know so when we look at next year, we look at it's when you look at the years of everything that happened. When next year hits, it's like when when something, when you have a marker of something that happened, like what does that marker look like for you next year? How are you going to handle um the onslaught of anxiety? You leave whatever we look at this year as a four horse year. The four horse year was a year of building structures. So I was talking to a four horse today, and someone that I've known my whole life, and she's still in denial. And she's a four horse, you know, and this is October. So I'm like, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? Because it's October and you still in denial about what you gotta let go of. You know, you a poster child for the four horse year. You're a poster child. Because everything that you're saying is exactly what the four horse was telling us we had to do. So you think about the structure of your home, and the structure of your school, and the structure of your job, and you holding on to it because it's what I know. It's what what do they say? The devil I know, as opposed to, so people are comfortable with that. But the four hearts said absolutely not. But when you look at how it started to how the four hearts slows down when it gets to those sixes, and when it got to those sixes, people lost their momentum. You could totally feel the it's like you think about the Wizard of Oz when they sprinkled the sleep, whatever that was, and they laid down and went to sleep. To me, that's what this year looked like. That the sixes hit and people were like, okay, okay. They talk about stuff, but okay, we're just waiting. What are you waiting for? You know what I mean? What are people waiting for? I find that, so when I sit and I think and I look at the life path of the four hearts, I'm like, what are they waiting for? What are they waiting for? Because yesterday was a Queen of Hearts day. It was a Queen of Hearts and Pluto. It should have triggered a whole lot of people. That should have been a trigger point yesterday. That's the Queen of Hearts and Pluto. That's the four hearts. You sitting in Neptune, Neptune, and you are what to the four hearts? I was like, wow, that's a lot. So we have to think about, what's the next step. We're not even getting through this year. There's so many distractions and there's so much going on that, it's pointing toward the work that we have to do as community, as people. But it's like you don't know what's happening in the outside world. What's happening in school, the struggles that people are having with their children at home, trying to get them. And it's like, what did the four hearts teach you? Did it teach you anything? Anybody?
It taught me cardology.
Yeah.
And and this system, and it's teaching me about myself, and it's helping me look at myself in ways that I would have never, like even a therapist could
Hmm.
not have taken me through. Like I even talked to my therapist about
Hmm.
cardology and stuff like that.
Hmm.
And she's even kind of interested because I told her, I said, every client you have, because you have to build their insurance, you have their birthday.
Mm-hmm.
And then as I've been sharing with her what I've been learning and things like that, it has really helped actually deepen the sessions that I have with her,
Oh, wow.
because I'm able to get under some of the stuff that I would have never been aware of, but the cards are helping me see it. So that's what the four parts year has done for me.
That's so cool. Now that's cool. Now but how many people can sit down and have that conversation? What has a four hearts? You have, somebody posted today on Facebook. They said, "What can you say good about the four hearts year?" And I was like, "Wow, let me just scroll past this." You know what I mean? Because people really are trying to make sense. I can see that. It's like trying to make sense of the year that went past. And that's a good thing, because you have to get something out of it, right? You have to. That's the way it started, especially all of the stuff that happened this year. But when them 2 6s hit, people were like, wow. And it's Neptune. So it tells you that this is personal, introspective work. It's telling you that this is work that you got to go within. You know what I mean? And have that spiritual conversation. And it's so funny that what happened? Churches were closed. The spiritual connection that people had is now a personal connection that you have. So you look at it, it's just so, for me, it's just so interesting because it's leading somewhere. We're in the crown line now. We're out of Neptune and we're in the crown line now. This means that all eyes are on the four hearts right now. You know what I mean?
And see, the Nine of Diamonds is my challenging karma card. And so, one of the things that I have also learned about the Nine of Diamonds is letting go of material ideas. Like, and especially like when you just talked about what this year has brought and all of that, that's been a big one because we were sold the American dream. But what we've seen through this year is that it doesn't have to look that way and you'll still be okay. And like you said, it'll either kill you or you'll live through it. And so far, we've all lived through it because we're here having this conversation tonight.
Right. But it's like you have these kind of earth-shattering moments, because I can promise you, because of Cardology, I can relive everything that happened. It's like go ahead.
I'm sorry. I really wanted to be patient, but when you said earth shattering moments, I just had to. I've been having one since kind of this conversation, since we've been talking about the Five of Hearts, because I'm looking at the placement of the Four Hearts year, right? So we're in the Four Hearts year, and if you look at the America spread for 244, it was the Four Hearts was sitting. I'm sorry, for 243. So the age spread 63 plate.
Let me go back. Yeah, let me go back.
Yeah, so just one back.
Okay.
The Four of Hearts is sitting Venus, Uranus, and it's displacing the Nine of Spades. So when you're saying about personal,
okay, yes.
So when you were talking about everything you were saying was just aligning with my thoughts, I was trying to hold until But the Venus Uranus position, that's definitely, like you said, going within and talking about talking with your higher self, your spiritual side, and then the transformation card of the Four of Hearts is the Five of Hearts. And we can see, like you said, that's Jupiter. So it's pretty much like you pretty much were saying, giving a premonition of sorts or forewarning to what to expect when we did enter 2020 for real.
Right.
And then when we go to the spread you were just on for this current year, with the Five of Hearts, wait, what does it turn into?
But look at the Jack of Diamonds is sitting there, and
that whole spread is Uranus, right? That Jack of Diamonds is sitting in Uranus.
The Jack of Diamonds is sitting for the Four of Hearts, though. I'm saying.
Yeah, it's the Uranus
yes,
card.
Now that's deep.
Because it was telling the future.
It's telling the future. That's deep. That is, and the Pluto is the three of diamonds.
Exactly.
So, so you ain't finished with that Pluto three of diamonds energy yet. Pluto has hit it. And the Jack of Spades is the support and karma card. So the three of diamonds is the card that's going to open doors going forward. It's the initiate. That three of diamonds energy is definitely going to be very powerful next year.
Is it three of diamonds Pluto or Neptune?
What? Oh, Neptune. I'm sorry. So
but that's still very spiritual. That's
yes, very still very, very. Either way, it's telling us that the three of diamonds is the card that's going to set the stage because it's sitting in the Jack of Spades. Well, Jack of Spades is the initiate, so it's still that
definitely
that energy that we're looking at, and the Seven of Clubs is a challenging karma card.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's going to be a lot going on around that energy, regardless of whoever the person is. That energy is there. And the Eight of Clubs now is Pluto. And that's one of the most powerful cards there in the deck. There's a fixed card sitting in Pluto. What the heck you think next year is going to look like?
I got some thoughts.
Man. This is
but this is last year's spread, right? Because we're on 243.
Yeah, last year was telling us what to expect in 2020. Yeah, this year. And it's just, in retrospect, it's amazing. Like, wow, who would have thought?
Oh, for real, that fixed card in Pluto. So we're protected, but you ain't going nowhere because I'm not moving.
Yeah, it's going to take some dynamite. And Pluto got it, though.
And that's also that talk, again with the going within and getting that higher consciousness, because that's communication from above, coming down. So, and it's quick communication. So this, it's been dragging because we have 6 energy, but it's really been a fast. It's been a long, fast year. Right.
And exactly. It's been you just put because my granddaughter was like, because she's had the baby, and she would, the way she talked, it was like she'd be 6 months pregnant, and she would talk, and the next thing I know, she's 8 months pregnant. I'm like, I'm about tired of you rushing my life. That's how the year went for me. I mean, what do you mean you 8 months? She said, Grandma, I'm 8 months. I'm like, no, you're not 8 months. You just was 6 months. And this is how you're right with that. And now she says, oh, we only got 10 days and we'll be, whatever, she'll be here. And I'm like, we're not doing this again. You're not rushing past my life anymore. But that's how the year has been. It's just been, like you said, it's been hurry up and move by. So with that being said, with it sitting there next year, it's definitely something that you want to be meditating on, because this is key. This is the Pluto card. This is the card right here that 6 of Hearts is sitting here. So that means it was a Pluto card. This is a card. This is what this struck me was so interesting is this was a card for jail. This is a card for confinement. This year is it's this year, because New Year starts this year in the United States spread, is a 5 of Hearts with the jail card in the sun. That's a lot. Freedom and restriction. The 9 of Diamonds, letting go. So next year at January, it's going to be a lot. It's a lot, because this is a card of restriction. 6 of Hearts is definitely the card for jail. And I knew too many people with this card that have been in some sort of confinement. And it shows up when you look for that, and I'm like, seeing it sitting in the sun, it's always a good thing when something is sitting in the sun, because you have options. The sun is telling you, you have options, but the sun is powerful enough to hurt. You know what I mean? If you're not doing what you need to do, because the challenging karma card is the Queen of Spades. So it's about you. If you haven't done what you needed to do, remember 6 is cause and effect. So what you have done comes back to you whenever 6 shows up. And Biden is, for me, he is definitely always going to be the czar that put that prison reform into back in the 70s, whenever it was 80s. So with him being in Uranus and running for president, this King of Hearts energy and this Six of Hearts up here for me is saying a lot. This is saying a lot. It's a lot of restrictions that are coming, you know. And what are the restrictions going to look like? What are we going to have to let go of? What things are we going to have to let go of? And then you have it on top of the Five of Hearts year, where people are going to be Five of Hearts is, you gonna have people soon as January hits, it's like, no, it's like freedom. It's like we've had enough. So it's gonna be very interesting energy, very interesting energy to say the least, next year. Because your people, the structure of the Four Hearts isn't it's like people are just waiting. It's like in anticipation of what? What am I anticipating? People don't know about cardology, but they know they want to get out of jail, right? Because they feel the Six of Hearts. The Six of Hearts, they feel this, along with the Four Hearts. So it's really gonna be interesting. Me, I feel, I'm telling you, I can tell you in the last 2 years, this is the first time, and it could be longer. I don't remember. I really have to sit with the cards, but this is the first time I don't have anxiety in my life. In my life. And it feels freaking awesome. So yeah, I'm a believer of the energy of these cards. It's the first time I haven't had anxiety. Now I just don't do what I don't want to do. I say I don't want to do it. I don't get the anxiety. I don't get the trepidation. I don't have to mull it over. I don't have to do anything. I just say I'm good and I'm done. And that's the energy of when things are working in your life. And what I always say, lean in, because hey, it's happening. What are you resisting for? I have proof it's happening. I have proof, that it happened to me. I lived it, so to have that, thank God, to have family. Yeah, they thought I was crazy, but still, they still supported me. They still supported me. They make fun of me now. My grandkids, remember, they just make fun of me now about, things that happened during that time. I'm like, I don't care if y'all make fun of me, but they, at least they had a sense of humor about it. That may have kept me from, at one time I really wanted to check myself in. I really was working with a doctor, and she said, maybe you should take 30 days and go, inside of, in a treatment place. I really was considering that, because I was like, I don't know what's happening. I really don't. I don't know what is happening to me. Why am I unraveling like this? So yeah, I definitely am definitely look at um the energies of the cards totally different. Totally different. When I sit with them now, because they're pointing somewhere, but you got to do the work. And now I know that this is now the time where I'm living out loud. It's like, okay, I've gone through all of that. Now what? You know what I mean? It's like you've healed. Now you're good. You're on solid ground. And this is where you start doing the real work. Does that make sense?
It does to me.
Yeah, it does to me too. There's a lot in there. I have to study it.
Did we lose Gina? I must have lost her.
No. And the fact that last year that the 4 of diamonds flips into the 5 of diamonds as a transformation. That about blew me away. But one thing I was looking at, can we go back to the 43rd spread? The one, I mean, not the one before the 63rd.
Okay.
Just the one right before it, not 43. I'm sorry, babe.
Okay.
Okay. So we were talking about how that 8 of clubs is there as Pluto.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was looking at that 8 of hearts as the reward and the result.
Mm.
Which then flows us into what? That 9 of diamonds.
Yeah.
And then we
Yeah.
have the king of hearts that will usher us into the 5 of hearts.
But the
That
9 of
cosmic
diamonds,
moon.
but that 9 of diamonds is key because that's a marker. Because remember, the nine
Yeah.
of diamonds is Pluto now.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a marker for the 9 of diamonds is Saturn, Venus. And
And
it,
that was the cosmic lesson. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So
That's
that's
the
the
lesson. And now it's in what? Pluto.
mm-hmm. So yeah, that's a tells you that's that yeah, that's a lot. And yeah, you got that one.
Because
But
when you all were talking, I was like, wait a minute, if we go to the rest of it, we got to talk about that. So yeah, I was like, wow.
yeah, and look at it's 3 8s. It's the 8 of spades, 8 of
Right?
clubs, and the 8 of hearts.
And 8 of hearts.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's power. That's driven power. That's that telling you that this is being driven home to the door. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You know that 6 of clubs is the displacement card this year. That's what the United States is
Mm.
displacing.
Yeah, it's displacing the Jack of Diamonds, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's just I'm just really looking at like I'm comparing the 63rd spread and the 64th spread, on my personal, just looking back and forth because it really is foretelling. And I think for 64 there are five, I mean there are 3 5s in the Jupiter line, I think. Let me see.
I'm
Mm-hmm.
so
Yeah.
glad you brought that up, Mimi.
Yeah.
That's some good look. I mean, that's a good study.
Because also, and thank you, because it's a lot of transformation. And then
Yeah.
the 5 of hearts is, I mean, the 4 hearts transforms into the 5 of hearts, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um yeah, the 5 of hearts, and then yeah, so then for this year the 5 of hearts turns back into the 4 hearts. So it's like, okay, so what you were saying, Diamond, about jail and whatnot, that's what
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to come back to that point.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, 4 is also confinement.
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking about how we were saying people were going to be returning home, possibly.
Mm-hmm.
So, on the high side, I mean, well, maybe not even high side, but I'm just going to say, what is home? Home could be, you could be home with four walls. You could just be returning to some point in that regard of that confinement, those 4 walls of confinement. So like this whole spread, and even when we were talking about the sex trafficking, right? So like I think Summit was talking about the media. But I will say that there, when Diamond, when you said teachers and whatnot, it's the regular people. Like
Mm-hmm.
I know, like me, I look to different sites, social media sites like Twitter and whatnot for my news.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's the personal accounts.
Mm-hmm.
And the 10 of clubs is the Jupiter card for the 5 of hearts. So I looked at that as teachers and, doing the
Mm-hmm.
broadcasting themselves. So
Mm-hmm.
it's really going to be upon the people, to take the action and do the
Mm-hmm.
work, like you were saying. And we see that with, tying it back into the previous spread with all the 8s. It's,
Mm-hmm.
and that also, I look at that as the infinity of the ongoing, how long this year has been, but also that quick communication coming in. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like up and down, back and forth. But it's, the year has been dragging because of those 8s as well with the 6s. So it's just a lot. And like I said, with those 5s, just tying it back to what I started with, being like the transformation. So 5 energy in that Jupiter line. So it's just very interesting looking at it all.
And look at what's so deep about the Five of Clubs is Jupiter, Jupiter. The challenging karma card to the Five of Clubs is the Five of Hearts.
That's what I was going to say. The Five of Clubs sitting in Jupiter, Jupiter was going to be a lot of rough and tough, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to say fighting, but when you were saying about the jail,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what I thought of.
Yeah. And the Five of Hearts is in essence in Jupiter, Jupiter again, because it's the challenging karma card. So it's definitely that energy is something that going forward is going to be on the forefront. It just when you're looking at it, it makes sense because you're looking at people talking about the ascension and talking about all of the changes and stuff that's happening. That's it for me. Makes perfect sense. It's a shift. It's a shift of going back to a way of old to me because I totally can see that energy. I can see that energy making more sense now. You know what I mean? Being more creative, being able to express yourself, and now you've gone through the storm. You've weathered the storm, and now you're starting to build that platform of that whether people